All right, so we've got a few things that we've got to take off here so that we can make sure we've got room for the center bracket and the vertical jacks here. So pretty simple as far as pulling this guy off of here. So we can expose what we got going on underneath. There's that guy. And our center bracket is going to run actually right underneath our frame right here. It's going to basically, you determine that by the yoke, which is going to hang down underneath here. And we'll explain some of that later on, but it sits back just about right there where these guys are. So we'll probably remove both of these tanks off of here, and we'll see about removing the tray that holds them on there. And again, we've still got some old equipment that didn't work for them we've got to take off as well. So we'll go from there. Okay, now that we have got our propane tanks off and our tray are loose and ready to go, what we're going to do is start with the weight distribution jack install on here and see what our fit's going to be on these guys too. Again, we're not going to torque anything down yet until we're like done and ready to go. So let's see how these things are going to fit on this guy, and we'll get our measurement from there. The front of the jacks, we say to have it 26 inches. That's going to be actually to the front of this base right here. Is 26 inches, give or take 1.5 inches. So that can mean you can bring it up to about 24.5 or back as far as 27.5. So we're going to see where this guy fits on this to begin with. So we'll go from the center of the coupler again, back to 26. And it looks like in this particular situation over here, the electrical box for this particular travel trailer is like right at our 26-inch mark. We can put it about at 27.5 here. So I'm going to see how that looks. And if we can get away with that, then maybe that's what we'll do. But we've got another little issue over here that I see too. And this is great because it's like real world stuff, right? Not everything's absolutely perfect. So you got 26 inches back on this, which obviously is there, and a 27.5. It looks like we do clear this little grounding wire over here. So I think that's what we're going to do. Ultimately, we want to try and keep our vertical spring bar links, the vertical ones, as vertical as possible on our spring bars themselves. So that's the ultimate goal. At about 27.5, they may be raked in a little bit, but that's going to be probably totally acceptable for this particular setup here. So we'll get right to these jacks and see how they fit on the base. So since with this one, I'm just kind of do a test fit here and just kind of see where we're at again. It looked like that 27 was going to work for us, or 27.5, I should say. And it does. It's just about at 27.5 back to this box, and you can kind of see that nice electrical box right there in our spot, which is fine because it's still going to work out for us. So that test fits fine. Over on the other side, it's going to do the same thing for us. So we can get these guys ready to go for our jack distribution hardware kit. So here's something to note too, is we give you 4 different bolts here. The longer ones are for a C channel, which is hollow on the inside there. We do not have a C channel on this. It's actually a regular style here, so we're going to use the smaller ones. And as I drop that, the shims. Shims are important to install because what we don't want to have happen is this guy to lean outwards, because instead of this downward force here, it's starting to pull outward. And that's when you have these guys starting to want to try and go out instead of down, which is bad news. So we're going to try and keep these guys as vertical as possible on here, and that's what these shims are for. So definitely install these shims. We'll see how it's going to fit with this. Maybe we're going to get lucky and it's going to slide right in there, but we'll see. Let's give it a shot. I actually like to take the nut here too and put it on this guy to kind of lock it in once it's in place. These are really only meant to keep this shim in place, so don't over tighten this on the frame. There's no need to do that, just to snug it up there. I'm going to get that guy tightened on there. We're going to bring it through here. Let me get a wrench. which I should have had ready. It's always good to have like the tools you need ready, which we'll go over those too. Shim's going to be held in just like that. We're just going to get in there just enough to where hopefully you can slide this guy over, and you're going to want to slide it on at the same time. So you want to keep that shim in there, holding it in, and slide it right over the frame. And most of the time it does need a little bit of help doing that, which is no big deal either. We're just going to get a rubber mallet and give it something to think about here real quick. Actually, maybe not. I think we may be able to just pop it on there. Nope, I am going to get a dead blow real quick, and we're going to hammer this guy down on there. These are pretty resilient, so don't worry about damaging that. If you slide it on at the same time, because it tapers inward at the bottom, so there's a little bit more room up here. Once you get it on there, like this, it should go down no problem. Just keep in mind that if you are going to do that, that once you get it on there, it's going to be hard to move once you get it down to the frame. So keep that in mind if you're going to dead blow it on like I'm going to do here in just a sec. I'll be right back. All right, so I am going to have to give it a little bit more encouragement to get down there, which is fairly typical. Even sometimes I've had frames that and the tighter the better, quite honestly, on this. That's why we have those shims, and that's why I'm all about using this hammer to get it down lower on there. But you may even have to, sometimes it's too tight on there, you may have to modify this to get it to fit, which is no big deal either. So feel free to be able to do that. If you got to grind it down, use a hand grinder, whatever you need to get that. But just keep in mind that it does taper towards the bottom. So you usually don't have to grind much at the top. You can just kind of grind, at an angle down here, and it should be good to go for you. But don't be afraid to do that, and definitely put these on so it doesn't have any outward movement. So we want to get that thing as flush on the frame. And we're just about there. You can see that it's flush here and it's super tight on either side. And that is what we are looking for. All right, I think that's going to do it. So now we can put on our U-bolt here. Now this U-bolt is going to go from the underside of the frame up, is how it goes. So it goes from underneath and comes up. And I do have a little bit of a wire harness here, which most of you will. You can just usually snake that around there and come up with this dude, just like that. The important thing on this to remember is that you keep these even. So as you tighten these, make sure that they tighten evenly so that you don't have one side that's higher than the other, so that it's pulling at the same spot down here. I have to apologize for my lack of engineering terms, but I'm just not engineering. And that's probably not even a word either. And let's get our right bolt. And there she is. So I'm just going to get this thing snug right now. We're not going to tighten it yet. All the torque specs for this are in the back of the manual, and you absolutely can reference those at any point. But again, we're just going to try and get these snug so that we can get the rest of it on and make sure all our fitment's good before we go crazy on it. Perfect. So we'll get that nice and torqued perfectly here in just a bit. I'm going to move to the other side and get that one knocked out, and then we can get to our frame brackets. So we're going to do the same procedure on the other side, and hopefully our frame is going to be the same size. I've had quite a few that necessarily aren't, so you got to do a little bit of modification, but we'll see. Hopefully it works out. And I haven't snugged this in on the other side yet either. We just no need to yet. But I put this bolt on there so it locks it into place so it doesn't move in or out once we do get that in there. So that's why I'm doing that. Let's get this guy threaded in there again. This main purpose of this guy is just to hold this shim in place and give it a little support there. That's why I've got the hole drilled through it. So we're going to get that right to the edge there. And actually just back it in a little bit so that it's not sticking out. Let's see how we do on this side. Probably could use some kind of spray or something to help out with the lubrication on it, but this seems to be going to be going on all right. So I'm going to do a quick measurement here to make sure that we're still roughly at 27.5, because that's what we're going to need to be at for this dude on ours. And I apologize. There it is. Golly. All right. So if we head back here from the center of the coupler, yeah, so I'm like too far back on this side. So I'm going to push this guy up to my mark, which is about 27.5 there. That's why it's good to use like a white pen instead of a pencil. But that's all good. Let's get our mallet. Move this guy closer into position, see where we're at. Almost there. All right. So now I'm a little bit too far, of course, yeah? What's the saying? Measure 10 times, cut once. There we go. There we go. I think with this one, we're going to probably need to maybe get a, I don't think that's actually touching it. Just want to make sure it's not. Yep, we're right where that is. So in this case, actually where I need to be at, it is going to end up touching this ground a bit. So what I'm going to need to do is actually relocate the ground to my battery here, which is still not that big of a deal. So give me a moment. I'm going to do that, and I will be right back with you guys. Okay, we're back. So we relocated our ground for our battery, and we're going to try and get this guy mounted and tapped into place here. Let's get that quick measurement on it again. Yep, all right. So close. There we go. So this one's pretty darn tight, so we'll see if we can get this on there without having to grind this guy down. But we may have to grind a little bit, we'll see. Again, we want to get it as tight on that frame as we can. Almost there. There we go. Sweet. All right, we're gonna do the U-bolt on this guy. Again, it goes from underneath, comes up to the top. Nothing in the way on this side, so we're good there. Washer and lock washer. Washer, lock washer. Looks like we're gonna have just enough room on this dude. There we go. Make sure you don't cross thread these. This side is almost an exact fit. And when it's that close, that lock washer wants to push up on it. There we go. That is not our bolt. I don't know where these things go. Disappearing on me. There she is. So again, we're not torquing these things down yet, but you still want to make sure that we're tightening them even. And you can see where the top of that guy is, and the top of this one. I can get this one lightly in there. Just snug it up, and we'll tighten all that stuff later on. So now we've gotten our weight distribution jacks mounted, and we are on to our frame bracket. So let's get to that.